The internet has transformed communication and reputation. A single tweet can make or break someone overnight, challenging defamation law in new ways. How do we define free speech when digital platforms blur fact, opinion, and misinformation? This is Beyond the First. From the basement studios at WSOE at Elon University, this is Beyond the First, a podcast where we explore the intersection of media law, ethics, and real-world impact. I'm your host, Israel Balderas, and in this series, we're diving deep into the legal and ethical dilemmas shaping the media landscape today. So, on this episode, we're diving into defamation in the digital age. In the last episode, we talked about defamation in light of everything that's going on in Hollywood with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively and that whole entire mess that I don't want to get into because, quite frankly, I don't follow Hollywood. I follow First Amendment law. However, as social media and digital platforms amplify both truth and misinformation, the consequences for individuals caught in the crossfire, it can be devastating. So how has the legal landscape adapted to these changes, and are traditional defamation laws still effective in an era of instantaneous global communication? With me today, I'm joined by two of my media law and ethics students, Liam Stevens and Josh Moore. They've been researching how technology has blurred the lines of defamation law, and today we're going to discuss the impact of social media, evolving legal standards, and whether reputational harm has become an inevitable risk in the digital space. I'm going to start with you, Josh. Certainly, digital space has become a big deal. You know, a few episodes ago, we talked about TikTok and banning TikTok. But, you know, this is where people can be ruthless. They can be mean. So, you know, how do we sort of balance the interest of free speech and not ruining someone's reputation when that's how you earn points on social media is by being mean, right?
Yeah. So I think, well, first of all, social media being such a fast-moving and kind of impressive tool that we have, and everybody has access to that. But sensationalism, I find, has really kind of dictated that, and that sort of marketplace of ideas in the social media world. So creating something that's going to get the clicks, going to get the issue out there, is going to make much stronger waves than it has over print media or other forms of it. So I think in this way, it's very, very important to make sure that the information being spread on that, especially as it pertains to somebody's reputation, is true, forthcoming. Just because people it moves so fast. If I go onto Twitter, I see a headline about some celebrity like Aaron Judge. I'm a Yankee fan. Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge does this crazy thing, and it's not true. I might not even get the chance to see a fact check or anybody else responding to that sort of issue. So I think that it is very, very important to keep that line drawn and make sure that reputations are kept intact.
Which everything Josh says, Liam, I've heard people say, and therefore, this is why we should regulate the digital space, right? And then I go, man, I don't know if I want government, saying, shame Balderas, you shouldn't be mean. Right. So, is it left up to the people to say, I'm going to peace out and not be anymore on X. I'm just going to go to Blue Sky because X is too nasty, too naughty.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessarily really on the people when you look at kind of the landscape that we're entering in terms of how volatile and extreme some of the language is being used online, kind of as Josh alluded to. There's a large amount of misinformation and disinformation out there, and so you kind of see the people online maybe potentially being targeted with that type of speak, suffering harm to their personal character. And that's kind of where we start to get into defamation and how the lines are slightly being blurred, but overall it's a very volatile landscape that we're entering and really studying here.
Yeah, and if defamation is about protecting reputation, Josh, I would say, look, if you want to protect your reputation, then don't go out into the digital space. But then again, I'm one who believes that we should participate in the digital space. So is there an argument to be made that maybe the government has a duty to protect the marketplace by looking at these apps, these digital spaces, more like public utilities, right? Where you can't do X or you can't do Y. Has the time come, to be able to do more of that on social media?
Well, I think that's a complicated question, right? Because regulating and setting the stage for social media, just overly regulation, like through the government, that's a dangerous game to play. Because the way that precedents are set through stare decisis, that could pave the way to a lot more like regulation and like it being a more consistent thing. I think that as it pertains to defamation, though, I think that the idea of it's not trying to stop people from saying something mean. It's trying to stop people from, like, especially with public figures, because again, sensationalism, that's what tends to sort of run it. With public figures, it's very, very easy to tarnish a public figure's like reputation or just say whatever. But to go out of your way and like do libel, right, and to publish something as if it's a fact, and say that, I think that definitely needs to be restricted and regulated a little bit more on media.
In the last episode of Beyond the First, we were talking about this entire episode involving Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni. Justin Baldoni suing the New York Times because they were reporting on a court filing that Blake Lively accused Justin Baldoni of creating a hostile work environment at a movie set. And the idea was that Justin Baldoni, as reported by the New York Times, had hired a PR company to ruin the reputation of Blake Lively on social media. And I went on social media, and I indeed saw that, right? I mean, it was targeted attacks on Blake Lively on social media, on YouTube, on X. And I'm thinking, anybody can be destroyed, right? That's the quote that the New York Times said, let's bury her. But is that just part of what we accept in a free society, that, Justin Baldoni can hire a PR company to pretty much ruin someone? Is it that easy? And yet the law of defamation doesn't protect Blake Lively because it wasn't Justin Baldoni who did the reputation. It was social media, right? It was, newspapers or e-entertainment or YouTube channels. Right. It seems that this issue has exposed what Josh just said, which is the difficulty of how do you square the law in the digital space.
Right. And I think that's exactly the core of what we're talking about here, because, I mean, that's really the root, is how impactful and how really powerful these social media platforms, online platforms are in terms of shaping the public perception. I mean, especially in the case of Baldoni and Lively, as you alluded to, it was a complete smear campaign, which has led to almost a complete reversal of public opinion in terms of those two political figures. So when you look at really whose responsibility it is to moderate this, you cannot say confidently that it's working the way it is right now, when it's able to be so weaponized.
Yeah. Josh, do you think the internet has made it easier or harder to hold people accountable for what they say?
I think that in a way it's been easier to hold people accountable, but I would make the argument that that's not always a good thing.
How so?
I think that being held accountable for actions and being held accountable for an outrageous statement just in the court of public opinion, that's important, and that's a value that's being brought to social media. But I would also argue that with the influx of information that media is bringing in, sometimes topics are too controversial that there feels like there's a right answer. Whenever the right answer isn't adhered to, then there tends to be, in my opinion, a little bit of a shunning, when I think a lot of the times the value to be had is by having that conversation. And in that way, I don't think that social media is the best avenue for that. It in that way, it does not enhance the marketplace of ideas in that way.
So if that's the case, then Liam, with social media accelerating the spread of both what I would say truth and misinformation, should platforms be then held legally responsible for defamatory content? We've had this law on the books, Section 230. Section 230 says that social media sites can be held responsible for the content that third-party folks place. And then if social media then regulate content, they won't face any harm. do you think it's time, for us to say, Section 230 was a benefit when we were trying to grow the internet, but it's time to get rid of that now?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like when you look at really how the power is constructed behind the people behind these social media apps, you can kind of see how singularized it is. Not only is it the time for us to completely involve the government and place the responsibility upon those shoulders, but it's the time to give up hope in terms of social media apps regulating and moderating their own content. I feel like we're past that point.
Yeah, but then that means if the government regulates more of this, then certainly social media companies will be even more apt, right, to regulate speech that it finds concerning. So therefore, it might have a negative impact, right, in the marketplace of ideas. And I was asking you, Josh.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean it's a very difficult balance to like make. And again, I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, that's okay. You're good.
What social media is like really, really good at impacting is the court of public opinion. And the court of public opinion now, in a world where stuff moves so fast and stuff is so widely like universalized, it matters, and it matters a lot. When the whole Depp versus Heard situation was like approaching, and when Heard first made the argument against like Johnny Depp, like alleging certain things, he was dropped by most of his spot. I think it was only one here. I can actually only Dior kept Johnny Depp on board after that whole situation dropped because the court of public opinion was immediately so negative. And then after the court case was run, huge media sensation, right? Everybody was coming back. Everybody was like, "Oh my god!" Like Johnny was like a very like tarnished. Like he went through this whole thing, but he still did do domestic. Like he still did it,
Right.
Like he might not have done like everything that was like alleged, and obviously that Washington Post article comparing him to Harvey Weinstein.
Amber Heard writing that.
Oh yeah. Amber Heard writing the article. There's a lot, but after that, like the media sensation surrounding that was just like Johnny Depp is like innocent. He did all this thing, even though he still did do domestic abuse. And then with that, Disney offered a reported to be $301 million contract and an apology to get him to come back and resume his role of Jack Sparrow.
I'm going to let you get some water. You can go get some water outside if you want to, just because I as a professor, I care for you, Josh. So I'll ask Liam the next question, and that should buy you some time to go out and get some water. So, Liam, given everything that Josh is saying, here's my question, right? In the world of AI, where we have the rise of AI-generated content and deep fakes, how can individuals protect themselves from false digital portrayals that could damage their reputation? Is this going to be the next frontier where we are now going to have to protect ourselves from AI?
I mean, the way it's headed, I believe absolutely it's the next frontier that we're headed. I mean, the powers of AI, and as you alluded to, are not only given creative ability to really generate any idea, but also in turn harm a reputation of a person by targeting weakness or whatever is exposed publicly.
Or just like taking someone's face, right, and then make them be someone they're not.
Right, and that seems like it's more on the public scale, but as you mentioned, it's more private as well. It's a realization that the population is going to have to come to, that the power of this is not revered or saved strictly for those in public position. As people are getting more media literate, as technology continues to advance, these attacks are going to become more common. They're going to be seen in younger generations. It's going to be all over, and so absolutely.
Yeah, Josh, I asked Liam this question. I'd be curious to know what you think about this, but we've seen the rise of AI-generated content, right? We've seen deep fakes. So what will be the next area that we discuss whether or not to regulate when it comes to people protecting themselves from false digital portrayals? Certainly that could ruin someone's reputation, right?
I mean, absolutely. I think that is the major sort of issue right now with AI, is that idea of like deepfakes and stuff and portraying people in a false light. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure what regulations could be like imposed on or improved. But if it were up to me, I think that the government should be working with the OpenAI, for example, right? The company like behind it to make sure that they're regulating like ethical business practices and regulate a way to address those issues at hand. Like one of those, AI like could do all these things to damage our reputation. AI could also be used as a tool, right? Misinformation screening, that could be an AI thing. Flagging deepfake content on platforms, AI could totally do that. So I think that like with obviously the potential for harm, it could be its own solution in itself if it's structured about and implemented the right way.
Yeah. And to me, when I look at AI, right, and just sort of like what Josh just said, it can be both a solution, right? It promises things, but it also brings perils to it. And this will be an issue for y'all, right? The sort of the 20-something that, as I talked about in another episode, within your college careers, you saw the explosion of AI and the use of AI, and that's just within a 2-year period, Liam.
Yep.
What do you anticipate that the world will look like as AI continues to evolve? It gets better. Will these lines with the law protecting individuals get blurred more and more, or do you think the law will eventually catch up?
Yeah, and as a journalism major and somebody pursuing a career in journalism, I've definitely seen all of the drawbacks of AI. I've seen the ability to write what I spend hours on in just seconds. And moving forward, I mean, what I've seen, you can only imagine how evolving, how evolutionary the works have been, and you can only predict that they're going to continue that way. Excuse me. Sorry for the stuttering. It might be a little nervous, but
there's no reason to be nervous, right? AI will take over.
Right. No, but
podcast.
I mean, AI, when you look at how it can be used as a tool, it applies to almost every walk of professional careers. I mean, really anything. It's not only can it write, but it can write scripts. It can provide It can provide walkways for further advancement. I mean, there's really no limitations. If you look at how it's going to be implemented, it's not really a question of when or if, it's a question of when and how soon and how much.
Josh, you get the last word. I've made the argument that, it's now been a couple of, weeks now with regards to whether or not the government was going to ban TikTok and force it to go dark. I've said I think the coming age is going to be a period where we're going to see more and more government regulation in the digital space. Is that a good thing? Am I wrong? Woe be us.
No, you're not wrong. I think it's absolutely coming. There's no denying that. The question of is it a good thing though remains to be seen, right? Because the technology is here. The best we can do is we'll see what the best that we can do is like moving forward. But I think that like whether that like opens up like new challenges with protecting the First Amendment on digital platforms and online and that sort of thing is very, very important. And obviously like adding a new complication to it is going to complicate the issue further. So, I mean, it's coming, right? We know it's coming. It just remains to be seen. Will that regulation be a good thing? What could happen if it remains relatively unregulated? What's happening? But I would also make the argument that the thing that AI is also like could be like a bad for and like damaging is the fact that like it erodes a degree of authenticity online. Like Liam was saying, like you see a report that could be spent in like hours in a second, like boom, just like that, AI did it. And so with that, in my opinion, there are definitely challenges to be authentic. In that way, if like, oh my God, like AI could just do it for me, this is so much easier. Which that is also bad for the marketplace of ideas, right? Because the marketplace of ideas relies on evolution and how can we have a critical conversation to stay informed and to keep moving forward and changing. So I think that like the lack of authenticity with it is the biggest significant like damage to it.
Liam, Josh, this has been a fascinating discussion. Thank you so much. The digital world continues to challenge how we think about defamation, free speech, and accountability. So thank you for being on this episode.
Thank
To
you.
our listeners, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Beyond the First. Now, if you found this conversation insightful, don't forget, subscribe to this podcast. We'll be back with more thought-provoking discussions on media law, ethics, and the challenge shaping our digital landscape. Until next time, keep questioning.